Am I audible?
Yes.
Sorry, didn't realize that Zoom was muted. We're doing roll call. Are you present?
Bacon is present.
We have quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. We're moving now on to public comment. At this time, citizens may address council on any issue, whether appearing on today's agenda or not. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Forest Hills will be permitted to address council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. Citizens are asked to use the microphone at the speaker stand, clearly state their name and address for the record, and keep comments brief and to the point. Please spell the name for the record. Speakers are reminded that council uses these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the business meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meeting. Do we have any speakers?
Bill Tomasic, 140 Tanglewood Drive, TOMASIC. I'm here for two things. Mr. Lawrence and Angela. Jack was the chairman.
You speak into the microphone. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's it. There, better.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't realize it. Did you get all that stuff though? I mean, okay. Especially,
For Mr. Bacon.
oh,
He's called in. He couldn't hear.
And thank him too, even though he's not present at the time. I'd just like to remind you all that good leadership leads to good government. So keep it up. Now that I've buttered and lathered you all up, I got a big favor to ask from you. Could you please bring back on the website the minutes to the council meetings that used to be there a few years ago? For whatever reason, they were taken off. And I don't understand the rationale, because that is a history of everything that has transpired over the years. I've used it to go back and talk to people about the Dunkin' Donuts, the AutoZone, the senior citizen apartments that we put in, and amongst other things. And it's easy to reference. I mean, once you get on there, you can just go back, bang, 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 and pick up any one of those months. A lot of times it's harder to get the year than it is the month, because you have a general idea as to what time of the year it happened. But there's just so much information that we need to have at our fingertips. And again, I would really appreciate it if you would, in council, get a discussion going, however you do it, and decide to put that back on the website. Okay. I'm done. My work is now done here. Adios, amigos.
Thank you, Mr. Tomasic. Mr. Bioki, would that be your committee?
We had a discussion today on ops and policy, but we can add that.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, no one else then, so we will move on to the business meeting. There will be no executive session this evening. Sorry, that was put on by mistake. So we will move on to committee reports, operations and policy. Mr. Bioki?
Yes, thank you. Last session, we did have a presentation by Ms. Ann Lewis for filling the vacancy that is due to expire by resignation of Mr. Erbaldinger. And we have an option here to, if we'd like to deliberate on that vacancy or just move that to our next business meeting for a vote.
I say we move it to the business meeting for a vote.
I would second that.
Okay.
Okay,
I
the
agree as
next-
well.
it's unanimous.
The second item is a discussion about committee structure, and I think that's just to see how the committees have been operating, get an idea if anybody has any concerns, questions, any things they'd like changed, that sort of thing. President Martin.
I asked that this be on the agenda because we said we'd give it 6 months, and 6 months is up. And besides that, the meetings are sometimes held during the day, and with Mr. Erbeldinger's resignation, that may have to change. So from my perspective, what we were told is that the committees would meet and then we would be presented with notes of their discussion and anything that the chairs wish to convey. Well, I don't really see that happening. I see the agendas, and then I attend the agenda setting meeting, and there's things not reported, although it was on the agenda as an item. I don't know what happened with it. I understand there's been some concern with delays because of the timing. I noticed, for instance, on the I guess it was the option policy. When I looked at the agenda, it had old business that the naming of the roads was put, was to be moved to borough property. Now, the actual borough property meeting took place a week later, but it wasn't an agenda item. So now it's an agenda item for this month, for the committee, June 10th. Like, how long does this have to take? I mean, whose responsibility is it? I'm not asking for an answer, but it seems to me like we're losing time on this. And what's there to discuss? Mr. Bacon brought up that he wanted community input, and there was. How many months ago is that? So my recommendation is, I talked with Mr. Lawrence. He knows a different setup than we have now. He asked not for us to vote. But I just wanted to say why I brought this up. So when he comes back, he's going to let us know like a third option. And that's all I had to say on it.
Yeah, I'd like to add that today we did have a meeting with Ops and Policy, and one of the things that we discussed was to provide a summary report of our meeting. So that would be available. The other thing is that when we have had discussions, they have come to this committee as a legislative action. So within that legislative action is the discussion and the recommendations. So that has been done. So I think adding the minutes would help to clarify that too. Anyone else have any? If there's no one else, that concludes operations and policy.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
And
Bioki.
let me know if I'm cutting out here. You guys,
Okay, can you hear us?
you guys can.
We just can't see you.
Yeah, it's on the end of having a. Turn that on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Yeah, you are breaking up a
Okay,
bit, so as
yeah,
long as we
I'm
know
just
that you're
gonna
here.
turn that, it's feasible.
Well, we were going to
So
ask you
I
to take the finance
agree
committee.
with,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Uh, no. Uh, we don't have anyone then to report on finance. So Izzy, Ian? Mr. Bacon?
uh,
We're not hearing you very well. Let's move on then. The borough property. Mr. DeCosta, did you want to take that?
Sure, I'm not updated on this particular issue, the discussion of bid for pedestrian bridge in the main park. Seth, oh, he's on the phone.
Oh, okay. Can we put that with a?
Okay, Mr. Bacon, I think we have you.
Okay, still hearing you well?
Sort of.
I don't know how much it's carrying, but are you
on speaker, Seth?
Yeah.
ready to go with the finance committee? On the deduct meters? Those darn deduct meters, when you want to talk about them. Okay,
Yes, there are approximately 8 accounts. The water authority in their, when we changed over to them for billing, has their own deduct meter system, and the cost is about 200 and averages about 231 per household. It would end up being a total cost to the folks who have deduct meters of approximately, I think, 2,100 for residential, and another 2,000 and change for the 2 commercial properties that use them. The finance committee's recommendation, as Mr. Bacon said, was that the residents, if they wish to continue having a deduct meter, that they would take on that cost.
is there any discussion? Mr.
I agree that they need to move over to the new system.
Okay, we're all in agreement.
I did not bring the specific numbers with me, but that is where we are. We are actually tracking well on taxes. And compared to last year, I believe we're about 86% of total collections, with the remainder of the year and the penalty time to be collected still. Otherwise, finances are currently stable.
I'd like to ask a question then. Why did I see something on there that million in the hole?
I do recall typing that. I have to pull it up to get exact context.
I have a question regarding finance. Mr. Abrams, when are the budget discussions going to begin for next year?
They are scheduled to begin in August.
August, okay.
President Martin,
Yes, sir.
this discussion that we're just having now, this is what should accompany the agenda setting meeting. So that should have already been something that we would have had. The question you asked, so that should have all been part of this as we discussed here about changing the committee structure a little bit. So just pointing that out.
Okay, so did I do something wrong? I'm not
No,
understanding.
I'm just saying that this discussion here should have already been part of this,
Oh, yes, yeah, okay. Yeah.
okay, as a summary.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was, but there was no, that was my question. So where's the $1 million that were in the hole? I didn't see any detail on that.
I mean, there's no summary about the deduct meter. There was no summary about
Yeah.
any of this.
But this meeting, we can bring up new topics to set an agenda, correct? Or do they all have to be set in committee before we discuss it here?
Mr. Corbel, I'm not an attorney. I'm not getting in trouble.
Right, so we have to set the agenda before the meeting, and the Sunshine Act requires us to, anything we deliberate or take official action on, to include it on the agenda 24 hours before the meeting. So we have to have those yesterday at 7 o'clock or whatever.
But we can ask questions without deliberation?
Is deliberating.
I suppose. I don't know.
But it depends on what you're asking, and when it, I can make the judgment call.
Okay, okay.
But typically, they have to have some sort of support in the agenda to discuss the topic. I do have some clients that use some language that would allow them to discuss most. I don't necessarily agree with that. They way, but I do think that there is a way, like, I know that there was something that was being discussed in the ops and policy meeting that happened this afternoon. So, there's probably something that we could add to the agenda today, if you wanted to, that would have been published last night, that indicates what those topics would be. And when you go through the agenda, the chair, Mr. Lawrence, could say, oh, number 3 was whatever. That's not ready for council discussion yet, but it was on the committee agenda. And then, as Mr. Bayoki is indicated, if there are summaries attached to the agenda, part of the agenda as to some of these other items, factual report of whatever, those are, in my opinion, those are part of the agenda and could be deliberated, taken. I don't know what you're driving at necessarily, but
No, I
that's
just,
the generality of it.
yeah, no, I just thought this meeting was more to create agenda for the business meeting, so we had more leeway in discussing what topics may end up there. But my understanding is that we have to discuss in committee, which then makes it to this meeting, and then we decide in this meeting what's going to end up at the business meeting. with due notice for the agenda and the business meeting.
Because there's a quorum of council, whereas in the committee meetings, typically there's
Right.
three or
Three of
fewer.
us, right.
And then you can bring up whatever you want because those Sunshine Act rules don't.
Do you have the answer?
I do. So what President Martin was referring to is a worded summary of the treasurer's report and the financials that council receives. The first part, which is $1 million amount, is the general fund has a revenue surplus of just over $1 million against expenses, which is an improvement versus the March report, which at that point was in a deficit against budget. The $1 million deficit that President Martin refers to is in the sewer fund. And again, that is a deficit against actual year to date. It against budget. It does not mean that we are out of cash or that we are borrowing. But right now we are, until we receive the additional funds, we are using some of the reserves that we carry over consistently in the sewer fund. Keep going with the expenses.
Okay, thank you. Does that end then finance? Mr. Bacon, does anyone else have anything? Okay, can we go to borough property now? Thanks.
The bridge bid package for the bridge was part of the overall approval by council for the GTRP Main Park project, of which the bridge was part of it. When LSSE advertised for a procurement bid, they received one bid, which included delivery, construction, the entirety. Did not follow the specs for the package, and came in, I believe, at about $170,000
Yes.
on what should have been about a $25,000 project. So therefore, once that was opened, our engineers recommended that council reject all bids and rebid. Because it is then, anytime a bid is received, it's incumbent upon council, obviously, to make that decision.
I'm for rejecting that and rebidding. Any other discussion? Mr. Biog.
Now, that wasn't clear here on this, even though we've had the discussion, that probably should have been clearly stated as part of this.
But I would support rejecting it.
Mr. Bacon? So then we can have that on the agenda for the business meeting, but then in the meantime, are we able to now pursue more bids, or do we have to wait for the business meeting date? Mr. Corbel?
If we're going to reject and then authorize re-advertising, the engineer could begin working on the new bid specs, et cetera, but it couldn't be advertised until after we reject the bids.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brett, did you have any comment on that?
Yeah, one of the issues you have with this type of bid is we typically get these items through CoStars.
Uh-huh.
bidding platform. These bridges, none of the suppliers. So you have to put out a material only bid, and that means a contractor has to bid to provide the materials, and they make a little bit. It's hard to get them to understand they're not to build anything. They're just to provide the material. Because we did talk to this contractor, he bid turnkey, and the specs are very clear. It's just material. Because this is like an erector set that gets put together, the bridge. Done them with multiple public works, but it's unfortunate that they're not a CoStar's vendor. Sometimes you'll advertise, we'll open bids again. If you don't get any bidders, then we can go to negotiate. Appropriate people. So we'll see. Somebody may bid it. But it is appropriate to go ahead and advertise them.
Thank you. Anyone else? It will be on the business agenda meeting. Thank you. Moving on to planning and zoning, Mr. DeCrosta.
Thank you. Yes, so we tabled the vote on rezoning lot block 300-H-160, which is the Drews lot. They're proposing to move it from an S1 to a B1, conditional use. But we tabled it for more discussion. I guess I would just like to discuss whether or not we feel like we need to move it to the next business meeting or a subsequent business meeting, because my understanding is that we had 90 days from the last business meeting to finalize our decision on that. So I just wanted some feedback on that. I've spoken to a few of you. I haven't been able to speak to everyone yet, but just wanted to get your thoughts on whether or not you think we should vote on it in the next business meeting. President.
Thank you, Mr. DeCrosta. I really, there are only four of us here. So if it's okay, my recommendation is to wait until next month. If
For
we
the
have the
July
time.
business meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
if that's okay.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Bioki?
Yeah, I think it would be better that we have a full group here.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Mr. Corbel, the 90 days gave us until August, and towards the end of August?
Yeah, they gave us a 1-day extension.
Yeah, the 91 days.
Yeah, they had to go deliberate in the hallway and they gave it to us. So we do have till the business meeting in August.
August, okay. So, okay, July, then Mr. Abrams will make sure it's on the business meeting agenda for then. That's all I have to report, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Bacon, Public Works. Yes.
Yeah, the only update I have from what was submitted is there is a couple grants that are out there to consider. As we've talked throughout the last couple of years, your pollution reduction plan, any grant that comes out, we suggest you apply for. There's one that does not require any resolutions or any action by council that's due June 20th. It's through Growing Greener. I have it listed in our report. It's a simple packet. I do recommend submitting it because the match on it is 15%, I believe, for the stormwater projects. So that's one that consider for next week's meeting. If you want to apply for that, I suggest doing that. The next one is in July, July 31st. It is multimodal. Projects such as steps, sidewalks, paving, combination thereof, are all recommended in part of it. It's up to $3 million. It does have a match, that I have listed in our report. But you may want to consider, because we've had folks come and complain about, connections, from point A to point B, as far as sidewalks, about the steps being in disrepair, areas that I'm not sure we all knew steps existed, that have been grown over, stuff like that. You do have a step project going now, so you have a history of an upgrade on the steps and things like that. So for the public works meeting, for the July meeting, the committee meeting, we should have that and talk about that. And if you want to submit, determine how we want to submit for that multimodal and what the number that you would like to in the general scope of work, so that that one requires resolutions and commitment letters, things like that. So, this first one, though, is really just, are you interested in submitting? I suggest yes, because if you got any of these PRP funded grants, then it offsets what you're going to spend. And this spends by next September. And you're looking at about $1 million total for PRP. So the more that you get grants in the cycle, and I do believe the state's going to be funding a lot of these projects because they want to see everybody get cleaned up.
Right.
Because the next grant cycle starts next year, and they would really like to see everybody finish their work. So if you could consider that and put that on the agenda to go ahead and have us submit it, I think that would be a good thing.
I have a question for you
Sure.
about with the grants, but before, I just wanted to explain, what we typically work with. We have a grant writing, I don't want to call it a name, a subcommittee. It's not an official committee, but it's comprised of Mr. Abrams, myself, and Mr. Bioki, and then Maureen Ryan, our contracted grant writer. And we typically look for different grants within the borough. But then when it comes to the sewer grants, of course, LSSE, they're going to be managing the project. We get the OPC from them. And from that, usually then Maureen does the verbiage. They have a partnership between Maureen and Mr. Brett's group. But I noticed then on there, did we miss a grant that we could, which one was that?
There was a CFA grant that was out for this same group, but that group of grants had a big scope. It wasn't just for stormwater, it was for a whole litany of things. And I believe, if I recall correctly, I heard at a meeting maybe 2 months ago, a grant was applied for something else maybe. And a lot of communities do that with that group of funding, because there's probably 30 things you can apply for, and people pick and choose what they want to apply for. These ones that are strictly stormwater, like this Growing Greener, on the 20th, it's stormwater dependent. The multimodal was infrastructure dependent. And then the next big round is in the fall, and they don't have a due date yet, is the LSA grants and the CFA grants. They'll award last year's, and then 30 days later, the next group's due. So as we hear rumblings, and Maureen will start to hear.
We already had a discussion started with those. What I was afraid of, though, because typically Dalton Mack gives us the OPC. Now, the last time he attended a meeting, he said he still hasn't had that steak dinner from you that you've promised. So I'm just
That is
bringing
true.
that up, Kevin.
That
I
is
wish
true.
we could get that taken.
I do
care
all.
of.
So,
Sorry, Mr. Bioki.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out something that the grants that we've been receiving and applying for from the county and state are going to be subject to the new federal budget. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to look at closely. Mr. Abrams and Ms. Lewis were also on that report from the county that we went to. It was a virtual meeting. So just so you know. we may not have the money that we think we might be getting.
Well, okay. I never hope, I mean, I hope we all get it all, but we haven't gotten one yet for these, so let's see. Maybe our luck will change. Okay, well then, I just wanted to check with that. Did anyone else have any questions? Mr. Bacon? Okay, thank you. Then moving on to public safety, Mr. Bioki?
Thank you, President Martin. I don't, we don't have any items for the agenda, but just two things. We, just for information, we did have an after-action report meeting. It was attended by all the principals that were involved in the emergency that we experienced in April. And there was a follow-up report that Mr. Abrams and I worked on. That went out to all those who attended. Once we get their information back, we will provide a report to council for review. Mr. DeCrosta, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I found it a very helpful meeting. It was good to just decompress from everything that everybody had to do.
Okay, Chief Williams?
No, I just appreciated having the opportunity to have a little conversation with everybody and talk about what we could do better in the future and things to look forward to that we may want to put in play for any other events we may come up with.
Mr. Smith, anything to add to that?
No, I agree. It was a great meeting. I think getting everybody in the room, talking, one page, was good.
Thank you. As far as the engineer's report, everyone has that in front of them, but Mr. Brett, do you have anything you'd like to highlight from that?
Nothing additional.
Well, thank you. That concludes public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Bioki. Is there any old business anyone would like to discuss? Any new business? Okay, then I move to adjourn the meeting by acclamation. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay.